A shout cut through Jack's lullaby. "Get a real job, man! Using a kid to pull pity?" Jack tightened his calloused fingers around a worn wooden pick for Mia carved by a pocket knife, then glanced at his daughter. Mia's pink hoodie swallowed her shoulders, 6 years old, but her eyes were steady, brave in the way kids learn to be when the world doesn't leave them much choice. "Last song, Peanut," he whispered. "Then we get dinner." He didn't add that dinner meant splitting one slice of pizza, or that the only cash in his pocket was the wrinkled 5 sitting in the guitar case to seed the crowd. He kept playing. The third rail hummed like a low warning under the platform, and the lights overhead blinked that tired New York flicker. Heads turned. Someone laughed. Heat crawled up Jack's neck. He kept playing. Mia, tiny and fierce, slid closer to the case and straightened the folded sign. "Songs for supper." Another chord. Another coin. Another eye roll. "Hey!" the heckler barked. "Bet he's scamming." A phone tilted up, hungry for a fall. Jack's voice wavered, then steadied. "Protect her." Finish the song. But he felt the old shame rise, the kind that sticks like subway grime under your nails. This was never the plan. He'd promised himself he'd sing, not beg. Music for groceries. Dignity with a melody. A breeze pushed through the tunnel, carrying the smell of iron and rain. That's when she appeared. Red dress, winter coat thrown over shoulders, hair pinned like she'd stepped out of a magazine and into the wrong part of town on purpose. The crowd parted the way it does for money or miracles. She listened, really listened. Her eyes fell to the pick in Jack's hand, then to Mia's scuffed sneakers. When the song ended, silence held, for one long, tender second. The heckler clapped slow. "Bravo, Subway Dad. Now teach the kid to cry on cue." Jack swallowed the hurt. Mia reached for his sleeve, small fingers anchoring him, and the woman in red raised her hand, voice ringing like a bell. "Don't give him pity. Give him a stage. Tonight, he's with me." The platform froze. A dozen phones jumped to record. A conductor leaned from the cab window. Even the heckler forgot his line. Mia's eyes widened, hope and fear wrestling on her face. The woman stepped closer, softer now. "My name is Vivian. There's a charity gala tonight. Mental health, families. We need truth more than polish." "What you just did? That's truth," Jack blinked. "Ma'am, I don't have a band. I have one shirt, and my daughter needs dinner." Vivian smiled, not pitying, appraising. "Then we'll feed her first, and we'll find you a stage that fits your voice," the crowd murmured, the algorithm of strangers shifting from judgment to awe. A police officer who'd been eyeing the busker's permit tapped his radio and looked away. Someone slipped a 20 into the case. Someone else wiped a tear. Meanwhile, Jack stared at his hand, the pick, the promise, and wondered if the tunnels that had kept them alive were about to let them go. "Is this real, Daddy?" Mia whispered. Jack closed his fingers over the pick. The grooves of the carving bit his skin the way choices do. He nodded once because sometimes you say yes before you know how you'll survive the yes. "Yeah, Peanut," he said, voice low but sure. "Tonight we sing." If stories about courage in unlikely places move you, hit subscribe. Your support helps us keep bringing real, hopeful tales like this one to life. What happens next tests what protecting a child really means. Before the red dress and the sudden promise of a stage, there were fluorescent lights and forms stamped "denied." Jack kept those pictures in a back pocket of memory, sharp enough to cut. He'd been a line cook who could turn a pan into a drum and steam into applause. The night Mia's cough wouldn't stop, he wrapped her in his coat and took 2 buses to the ER. He texted his manager from the waiting room, hands shaking over the tiny screen. "She can't breathe. I'll be late." By dawn, Mia was sleeping to the soft whir of a nebulizer, and Jack was watching the door when a nurse wheeled in a clipboard. Behind the clipboard came the same vibrating phone. "Attendance policy is policy. Don't come back. He stared at the message until the words lost their edges. He had never been late for a band start time in his life, but policies don't hold children. A week later, a paper bloomed on their apartment door under a strip of blue tape. Notice to vacate. The landlord's voice was cautious, almost apologetic. I'm sorry, Jack, 30 days. He nodded, as if he hadn't heard his own heart slam. That night, he found an old guitar case in the closet. His father's, wood rubbed smooth where 1,000 songs had rested. He carved 2 words into a wooden pick with a cheap pocket knife, for Mia. He promised the dark that they would never beg. They would earn. The tunnels became a map he learned by pulse and echo. Morning rush at 59th, lunch at Broadway Lafayette, evenings where tourists held their breath between trains. He watched which tiles threw sound back like mercy and which swallowed it whole. A transit cop with winter raw cheeks reminded him to keep the permit visible. A baker left end-of-day rolls. A boy in a Spider-Man hoodie dropped a quarter and whispered, "My mom says music is medicine." Jack believed him. It wasn't all kindness. Some nights the case stayed nearly empty, and Mia pretended not to be hungry. Other nights brought offers that smelled like trouble. Cash for private gigs. Too many questions about where they slept. Jack learned to pack fast, smile with boundaries, and keep the pick tight between thumb and forefinger like a compass. So when Vivian Cole's voice rang across the platform, it struck a chord he hadn't played in years. The sound of the door in, not the door out. Still, doors come with hinges and hinges creak. He looked at Mia, then at the crowd, then at the hat where strangers had left their small faith. "Dinner first," he told Vivian, careful with hope. "Then we'll talk." Vivian nodded, already signaling to an assistant who appeared with a paper sack that smelled like roasted chicken and warm rice. Mia's eyes sparked. Jack felt his promise shiver, earn it, and wondered if saying yes to help meant breaking the vow or finally keeping it. He slid the pick into his pocket, the edges catching his skin just enough to remind him. This story started with an injustice. If they stepped onto a brighter floor tonight, he'd make sure it didn't swallow them like the dark sometimes tried to do. For a heartbeat, the station held its breath. Then the phones rose, tiny glass moons catching everything. Vivian didn't flinch. She stepped into the circle of tile where Jack's chords were still ringing and spoke like someone used to signing checks that changed outcomes. "I run the Cole Foundation," she said, glancing at Mia first, not Jack. "We're hosting a gala 2 hours from now. If the room only hears polished songs, they'll forget by dessert. They need to hear this." The heckler tried for one more swing. "Lady, you getting scammed?" Vivian turned, cool as a cathedral. "Then pay him for the performance you just filmed, or move along." She reached into her clutch and dropped a crisp bill into the case, more than Jack had seen in days. The crowd applauded like the city exhaled. An MTA saxman from the next pillar, Omar, whom Jack traded shifts with, lifted his horn in salute. "Play the man a bridge," he called, sending a blue note up to the white tiles. Mia's smile grew, tiny as a dawn. "Food first," Vivian said again. Her assistant, Ali, produced the warm paper sack, 2 waters, napkins that didn't feel like sandpaper. Jack watched Mia take her first real mouthful of the day and felt a knot in his chest loosen, then reform. He'd promised to earn every bite. Was accepting kindness a different kind of earning? "Ms. Cole," Jack managed. I don't have a babysitter." "Then bring your daughter," Vivian said simply. "If anyone has a problem, they can donate on their way out." Someone near the map whispered, "Is that Vivian Cole?" And hashtags began to bloom. Give him a stage and Subway Dad, Mia. A woman in a parka narrated to her followers, "This millionaire just invited a busker and his kid to a gala. You guys, look at her little hoodie. Oh my God, I'm crying." Jack looked at his guitar, at the pick carved for Mia, at the smear of city grime on his jeans. He remembered sleeping upright in pediatric chairs so bills wouldn't eat the rent. He remembered the promise, dignity with melody. The pick warmed against his palm like a small, stubborn star. Vivian's driver appeared at the stairwell, a dark car idling somewhere above. An officer, the permit guy, lifted his chin. "You good?" he murmured to Jack. We're trying something," Jack said. "About time," the officer said, and he slid back into the moving river of uniforms. Allie handed over a sleek invitation, heavy paper, gold edges, a center line that read, "Cole Foundation Winter Benefit, for families on the edge." "There's a quick sound check," she said. "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be true." True. Jack could do true. He knelt to Mia's height. "You okay, Peanut?" She nodded, crumbs at the corner of her mouth. "Do I have to be quiet?" "You have to be you." He tucked the pick into her small fist for a second. "This is why we sing." From the far end of the platform, the heckler finally drifted off, but another figure lingered. Slick hair, leather portfolio, smile that didn't reach his eyes, watching like he'd found a stock on the verge of exploding. He palmed a card, and as the crowd shifted, flicked it into Jack's guitar case where it landed face up. Ralph Dent. Management. I make voices heard. Jack didn't see it yet. He only felt the train of fate pulling in, doors sliding open with a soft psh. Vivian offered her hand. "Shall we?" Jack stood, guitar slung, child held close. The tunnels had fed them. The surface might eat them. He took the step anyway, and under the coin glitter in the case, the card waited like a hook in clear water. The town car slid through Midtown like a whisper. In the back seat, Mia hugged the paper sack to her chest as if it were a kitten. Grease warmed her fingers. The smell of rosemary and roasted skin filled the cabin. Ailey tapped notes on her phone. Hotel Astoria. "Sound check in 20. Mr. Jack, right? Do you have a bank account for the honorarium?" Honorarium. The word sounded like a coat too big for his shoulders. Yeah, he said, thinking of the 2-digit balance. At the curb, the gala bled gold onto the sidewalk. Valets in black gloves, strings of warm bulbs, a red carpet that looked allergic to scuffed shoes. Jack felt the urge to retreat back underground. He touched the wooden pick in his pocket, thumb tracing the carved letters until the sting steadied him. Inside, the ballroom hummed with florals and funds. Vivian moved through it like tide water, carrying them toward a small stage. "You'll go on between the keynote and the auction," she said. "2 songs. Tell the truth. We've got childcare in a quiet lounge if Mia gets sleepy." Mia shook her head, determined. "I'm not missing Daddy's stage." A sound tech clipped a mic to Jack's jacket and handed him in-ear monitors he didn't know how to wear. Allie produced a simple 1-page release, permission to record and stream the performance, payment amount, nothing else. "You retain all rights to your songs," she said, almost anticipating his worry. "This is just for tonight." Jack read carefully. Words had cost him before. He nodded, pen hovering. "Jack, there you are." The voice came dressed in cologne and confidence. The man from the platform strolled up, leather folio under his arm. "Ralph Dent, Management." He shook Jack's hand like it owed him interest and turned a warm smile on Mia. "And this must be the star." Ralph laid 2 glossy pages over Ailey's neat little release. "Standard protection, my man. You're about to go from local legend to national story. Media requests, brand safety, royalties, likeness. This keeps you covered. Sign here, here, and initial the exclusivity so I can shield you from vultures." Ailey's eyes sharpened. "We didn't ask for this." Ralph's smile didn't flicker. "I'm a friend of the cause," he said to Vivian, who had just rejoined them. "Saw him downstairs. Talent like this needs management. You understand?" Vivian lifted a brow. "What he needs is clarity." Jack scanned the contract. Jargon stacked like brick. Assigns all masters. Perpetual license. Managers commission 35%. Exclusive engagement. A clause near the bottom snagged him. Artist shall not perform without manager's written consent. The letters seemed to blur, then snap into cruel focus. I don't understand half of this, he admitted. Which is why I'm here, Ralph soothed. You can't go on without proper representation, liability, child wellness. I can shepherd the complexities. Wouldn't want the internet seeing a little one up past bedtime and getting the wrong idea, right? Mia squeezed Jack's sleeve. The pick bit his thumb, for Mia, a reminder not to trade tomorrow for tonight. Vivian's calm turned stainless. Jack, you are under no obligation to sign anything but our one-page release. My legal team will review whatever else you're shown on your timeline. Ralph chuckled softly, as if he pitied naivete. Opportunities don't wait. One misstep and, poof, the moment's gone. A signature is smart. He slid a pen across the table. It stopped by Mia's fingers. She glanced at Jack. Do we have to, Daddy? Jack inhaled, felt the city's grit and dinner's warmth sit together in his chest. He thought of the tunnels, of promises made in rooms nobody saw. He handed the pen back. I'll sign the performance release, he said evenly. Nothing else tonight. For the first time, Ralph's smile wavered. Just a fracture, quickly repaired. Of course, he said. No pressure. He tucked the contract away, but not the look. A measured assessment. A hunter picking a trail. Break a leg out there. We'll talk after. He touched 2 fingers to his temple and drifted toward the bar, already typing. Allie exhaled. Good call. Jack turned the pick in his palm, the carved letters scraping lightly. The stage manager raised 2 fingers. 2 minutes. In the mirror on the wall, Jack hardly recognized the man in a borrowed blazer with a child on his hip and a city's eyes tilting toward him. Ready? Vivian asked, warm but firm. Jack nodded. We sing the truth. A distant rumble. Thunder? No, applause from the ballroom as the keynote wrapped. Somewhere beyond the doors, a phone buzzed in Ralph Dent's pocket, a message that would snake through systems by morning, aimed not at music but at custody. The curtain lifted a few inches, just enough for a father to see the ocean of faces and the tide he was stepping into. By sunrise, the city had braided their night into 1,000 screens. A clip from the gala. Jack on a small stage, blazer a size too big, voice raw as truth. Mia in the front row with a paper cup of cocoa, jumped from group chat to morning show. Someone captioned it, he didn't ask for pity, he asked for a chance. Another stitched in the subway moment when Vivian said, give him a stage. The views climbed like steam from manholes, constant, ordinary, unstoppable. Jack woke to a phone that wouldn't stop vibrating. Texts from unknown numbers, emails from stations he'd only ever heard through walls. Allie's message blinked at the top. Honorarium deposited. You did beautifully. Rest, please. Vivian's. Proud of your courage. We'll talk next steps when you're ready. He stared at the amounts, dizzy. For the first time in months, he exhaled without counting coins in his head. At the deli downstairs, the owner slid a bag over the counter, bagels still hot, extra cream cheese, a handwritten note. For Mia, no charge. At 59th Street, the saxman Omar posted a selfie with Mia throwing up 2 tiny peace signs, from tunnels to timelines. Same heart. Buskers nodded as Jack passed, a quiet coronation. A transit cop grinned. Heard you on the 6 o'clock. Guess I'm asking you for a set list now. Not everyone saw the same story. Under a viral clip, comments forked like the tracks. Protect that kid. This is beautiful. Exploitation much? She should be in bed, not at a gala. Where's the mom, though? Jack felt the old heat crawl his neck, the one that came with being judged by people who'd never once looked him in the eyes. He closed the app, tucked the phone away, and tuned his guitar by ear on the familiar platform. He needed the tunnel's hum, the measured kindness of tile and echo. The case yawned open. He dropped a seed 5 and the carved pick lay against it. For Mia, a promise he still meant even with bank notifications chiming like tiny bells. "Daddy," Mia said, mouth ringed with powdered sugar. "Are we famous?" He smiled. "We're fed. That's enough." A group of high schoolers gathered, hushed. One girl wiped away tears and whispered, "My dad left. Your song felt like a blanket." Jack swallowed and played softer, making room for the ache. By afternoon, offers came dressed as miracles. A brand wanted a Father's Day moment. A morning show wanted the subway set. Authentic, gritty, safe. An indie label wrote 2 honest paragraphs about rights and fair splits. A blue-check manager he didn't know promised arenas and curated narrative arcs. Jack thought of Ralph's glossy contract and the way the word exclusive sounded like a door closing from the wrong side. He took Mia to the small park behind their building. She chased pigeons. He read the label's email twice. "If we leave the tunnels," he murmured, "what part of us stays?" The wind didn't answer, only lifted a napkin that landed in his lap. Cole Foundation Winter Benefit raises record funds. His photo tiny in a corner. Mia's eyes bright as proof. That night, he set the phone face down and cooked real dinner. Eggs, rice, the last of the roasted chicken they'd brought home. Mia drew a stage with stick figure lights. "This is you," she said. "And this is me, but little. I'm in the front so I can see." When the dishes were done and Mia's eyelids began to fight gravity, Jack placed the pick on the windowsill where moonlight could touch the letters. The city breathed beyond the glass. His phone buzzed once more. A new account he didn't recognize had posted a slowed clip of Mia yawning at the gala with the caption, "Up past midnight, cameras rolling." "Is this okay?" The comments multiplied like locusts. Somewhere in that swarm, a link appeared. "Report concerns here." He felt it before he understood it, the shift in air, the way joy can turn on a hinge. At 8:17 the next morning, as Mia colored at the kitchen table and Jack measured coffee with careful hands, 3 knuckles rapped the door. Not a neighbor's knock. Official. Precise. He pressed the pick into his palm and opened his mouth to answer. The door opened to 2 people in winter coats and soft, trained voices. A woman held a folder and a badge. A man carried a tablet that woke to a blue screen. "Mr. Carter? I'm Ms. Alvarez with Child Protective Services. This is my colleague, Mr. Bennett. We received a report and need to check on your daughter's safety." The word report landed like a weight. Behind Jack, crayons rolled, and Mia looked up, a sun suddenly clouded. Jack set the wooden pick into his palm until the letters pressed courage into skin. "Of course," he said, trying for steady. We're making breakfast." Ms. Alvarez's smile was small but real. "We won't take long." To Mia, "Hi, sweetheart. I love your drawing. Is it okay if we talk later? You can show me your room." They moved through the apartment in that measured, non-judgmental way that still makes a person feel measured and judged. Fridge, eggs, milk, leftover chicken, fruit cups. Bathroom, clean towels, toothbrush with the bristles worn honest. Bedroom, 1 queen mattress, 1 small bed under a window that caught a square of morning. "Do you have a routine?" Mr. Bennett asked. "School, homework at the library if I'm busking, dinner, bath, lights out by 8, Jack said. The words shook, then stood up straighter. "She missed a day last week for the gala. There was childcare and cocoa. I signed a release." Ms. Alvarez nodded, tapping notes. "We saw the video," she said gently. "There's a lot of attention. Sometimes that brings misunderstandings." Jack swallowed. "Someone thought I was hurting her." The report referenced late hours, online visibility, and unsafe environments. She didn't add the part he could read in her eyes. Strangers who see a clip and build a case out of pixels. Mia returned with a shoebox. "This is my treasure," she told Ms. Alvarez, lifting the lid. The paper wristband from the gala lounge, a ticket stub, a sticker of a guitar, the bagel shop note, the carved Pix twin, one from years ago, cracked down the middle. Daddy says music keeps us brave. Ms. Alvarez looked up at Jack. May I talk to Mia alone for a minute? His throat tightened. Every cell wanted to say no. He knelt. Peanut, Ms. Alvarez just wants to make sure I'm doing my job. You can tell her anything. I'll be right here. He stood in the hall staring at the scuffed paint on the baseboard, hearing faint voices. Mia explaining cocoa in paper cups, the quiet lounge, how the tunnels hum like whales. He closed his hand around the pick. For Mia, you answer questions. For Mia, you breathe. When they regrouped at the table, Ms. Alvarez slid a single-page document across the wood. This is a temporary safety plan, she said. No performances after 8 p.m. with Mia present. Notify us of any paid appearances. Keep school attendance consistent. We'll schedule an in-depth assessment and unannounced visits over the next 30 days. Do you have support? Family? Child care? My parents are gone, Jack said. Her mom, it's just us. I have friends in the music community, and the Cole Foundation has offered help. That's good, Mr. Bennett said. We don't want to disrupt a safe placement. We want to verify it is safe. Jack signed, pen trembling only once. He'd learned how to read fine print. This paper didn't take. It guarded. Still, the edges cut. As they stood to leave, Ms. Alvarez paused. The internet is loud, she said softly. If you feel harassed, document everything. Block what you need to. A human sentence, tucked inside the official ones. The door clicked shut and the apartment exhaled. Jack's phone lit with a new email. From Ralph Dent. Subject: Custody optics and brand safety. Message: This storm can drown you. Let me handle media, schedule, CPS narrative. Call me before noon. Jack stared. The timing felt less like coincidence and more like choreography. He flipped Ralph's card over, remembered the glossy smile, the word exclusive like a lock. Daddy? Mia's voice was small. Are they going to take me away? He sat on the floor so his eyes were level with hers and put the pick between them like a talisman. No, he said, not as a wish, but a vow. We're going to do everything right. We're going to be boring and safe and together. Mia nodded, but her hand found his sleeve and didn't let go. He texted Ali. CPS visit. We're okay. They made a plan. Can we get legal eyes on something? 3 dots appeared then. Already on it. You're not alone. Outside, the city kept moving, sirens somewhere far, a bus sighing at the curb. Inside, Jack taped the safety plan to the fridge next to Mia's stage drawing. 2 pieces of paper, 1 dream, 1 rule. He would honor both. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. A single line of text. You're in over your head, Subway Dad. Sign with someone who knows the game. No name, just the scent of the bar where predators scent blood. Jack looked at the pic, at the plan, at his daughter. He powered the phone down, and a storm he couldn't see yet began to gather over Gala Eve. The forecast said, wintry mix. The city heard, build a snow globe. By late afternoon, flakes the size of ticket stubs smudged the skyline and turned sidewalks into slush rinks. Jack zipped Mia into her parka and slid the CPS safety plan into his backpack like armor. The Cole Foundation's winter relief broadcast was scheduled for early evening. Televised, family-focused, done by 7:45, so Mia could be home before lights out. Rules mattered now, and they'd chosen to be boring and brave at the same time. At the studio lobby, heat fogged the glass doors. Volunteers hustled, clutching clipboards and gaffer tape. A banner draped the staircase. For families on the edge. Under it, a collage wall of flyers, Vivian's face in soft focus beside a helpline number, rustled each time the entrance sighed open. Sound check in 15, Ailey said, shaking snow from her coat. There's cocoa in green cups for kids only." She winked at Mia, who grinned and pointed to the sign like she was reading a map to treasure. Jack checked his pockets. Permit, tuner, pick. No pick. His stomach tightened. He patted every seam, searched the guitar case, ran fingers through the lining. Nothing. The wooden talisman that had steadied his hands through tunnels and stages was gone. "It's okay," he lied to himself. "It's just a sliver of wood." But the carved letters, for Mia, were more than letters. They were a compass. A burst of cold air spilled in as a group pushed through the doors, and with it the kind of chaos snow brings, boots squeaking, scarves tangling, a toddler wailing at the betrayal of mittens. In the swirl, Jack realized he didn't see Mia. She had been there, one green cup away, and now... "Mia!" His voice hopped an octave, thin with fear. He scanned the lobby, then the hallway, then the shadowed corner by the vending machines. No pink hoodie, no small hand reaching for his sleeve. "Mia!" The shout scraped his throat raw. Volunteers paused. A security guard straightened. The gaffer tape stopped mid-tier. The lobby, all gold and bustle a second ago, narrowed to a tunnel with no light at the end. Jack dropped to a knee, eye level with handbags and coat hems. "Pink hoodie, 6 years old," he told the guard. "Brown eyes. She answers to Mia. She's brave, but she's 6. Ali was already moving. "You check the green room," she told a runner. "I'll sweep the stairwell." She pressed a walkie button. "Child locate, 1st floor." Jack's mind conjured every door, every stranger, every story that starts with "I only looked away for a second." He pushed through a knot of donors and their glossy smiles, past the merch table stacked with scarves that said, "Warmth is a right," past the lobby piano where an intern plinked something cheerful and oblivious. The snow leaned harder on the windows, turning the city outside into static. He found her at last at the foot of the stairs, small and still in a drift of fallen flyers. Mia clutched a handful against her chest like leaves. Her eyes were focused on one, Vivian's portrait, all poise and polish, except the camera had caught something else in the corners. Exhaustion. A familiar, bruised kind of tired. Mia. Jack exhaled so hard his knees wobbled. He dropped to the tile and pulled her into his coat. "You can't walk off like that. Not here, not now." She pulled back enough to point to the photo. "She looks sad," Mia whispered. "Even when she smiles." Jack followed her finger. He saw it now, the shadow behind the gloss, the way people who've been underwater breathe when they stand. He was about to answer when a voice spoke from the steps above them, warm and rough at the same time. "Cameras can't keep grief from showing up," Vivian said, her heels silent on the carpeted tread. Snow melted into diamonds along her coat hem. She crouched so their faces were a small triangle of breath and truth. "Sometimes a song does." Jack opened his mouth to thank her, to apologize, to say he'd lost his pick and almost lost his mind when the lobby lights flickered. Once. Twice. A transformer complained somewhere distant. The piano notes hiccuped and died. A volunteer's headset crackled. "We may have a grid issue. Back up in 90 seconds. Ailey materialized. "We need you at soundcheck in 2, she said, but her eyes asked a different question. "Are you steady?" Jack reached for his pocket again, knowing it was empty. Mia slipped her small hand into his, then pressed something warm and familiar into his palm. The wooden pick, the letters, the promise. "I found it by the door," she said, almost proud, almost sorry. "I wanted to keep it safe." Jack's laugh broke and brightened at once. He closed his hand around the pick, felt the carving bite, and nodded to Ailey. "I'm steady." The emergency lights hummed to life, washing the lobby in soft red. The broadcast clock on the wall ticked down, 01:58, 01:57. Vivian's gaze held Jack's for a beat longer than comfort would allow. "There's something I've never told you," she said quietly, the storm pressing its face against the glass. About why your song mattered before I ever heard it in person. Her words hung in the humming half-light, a door opening inside another door. Sound check, Ailey urged, pointing down the hall. Jack stood, Mia's hand in one of his, the pick in the other, and followed the glow toward a confession he didn't know he needed. The studio hallways smelled like fresh paint and coffee. Emergency lights pulsed a calm, heartbeat red as the grid finished rebooting. Ali led Mia toward the kids' lounge, beanbags, picture books, a volunteer with glittery nail polish, and slipped Jack and Vivian into a quiet rehearsal room where a piano waited with the lid propped open like a question. Vivian closed the door. For a second, the public version of her, the headline, the donor wall, fell away. She rested a hand on the piano and looked smaller, nearer. 5 years ago, she said, the night before my divorce went public, I was alone in a hotel 3 blocks from the courthouse. I'd built a life like a glass tower, no fingerprints, no mess. And then it cracked. The press camped outside. My phone kept dinging with numbers that wanted a quote, not a person. I hadn't slept in 2 days. I thought, maybe I could just step out of the story. Jack felt the room lean toward her words. He didn't touch her arm. He just listened, the way you listen when a train is coming and you need to know which track. I went walking, she continued. No coat, April drizzle. I wound up on a platform I'd never used, sat on a bench and tried to be a stone. And then I heard a voice, thin through the tunnel, like someone singing to keep the dark from getting ideas. She smiled, barely. You. I didn't see your face. I saw a pair of hands and a wooden pick, and I heard a refrain about holding the light even when your arms shake. It was enough. I went back upstairs. I called my therapist. I made it through the night. Jack blinked. He remembered that April. Mia had bronchitis and he'd rewritten his mother's hymn at 2 a.m., then taken it to the tiles because the hospital bills were shaped like cliffs. He breathed out once, a quiet, oh, that wasn't quite a word. I founded the Cole Foundation that summer, Vivian said, eyes steady now. We say we fund family stabilization, but what we buy is time. Time while you find a job. Time while a parent heals. Time so a father doesn't have to choose between rent and staying by a child's bed. We built a mental health fund because of one voice in a tunnel. Because of you. Silence sat with them, clean and heavy. Jack looked at his hands. The calluses had outlasted seasons and shame. He turned the wooden pick and let the carved letters nip his thumb. For Mia. Why tell me now? He asked, almost afraid of the answer. Because the internet makes fast things, Vivian said. But your life can't be one of them. And because storms bring sharks. The moment you refused that contract last night, someone started planning a different door to push you through. I've seen it too many times. Manufactured safety crises, narratives that turn fathers into fodder. Ralph, Jack said. Not a question. Vivian's mouth thinned. His type. Not the only one. My counsel is pre-briefed. If someone tries to leverage Mia to control your art, we answer in daylight, with receipts and the law. But I can't make your choices for you. Jack's pulse beat in his fingertips. He thought of the CPS plan on the fridge and the way Mia's hand had felt when he found her by the stairs. I won't feed the machine that eats families, he said. Not for anyone's brand. Not even mine. Good. Vivian slid a folder across the piano bench. Here's what I can offer. An artist grant that covers 3 months of bills, no strings, a pro bono legal review team, licensed childcare for events, and an agreement we drafted with an indie label that keeps your masters and gives you opt-out at every milestone. You'll hate some clauses and circle others. That's fine. Circle in red. We bargain. His throat burned, the way it does when gratitude scrapes against pride. Why me? He asked. Because you told the truth when there was nothing to gain, Vivian said. Because you kept a promise carved into a cheap piece of wood. Because Mia watches you learn out loud. That's leadership I can't buy." He laughed once, helpless. "I don't feel like a leader. Half the time I'm a dad trying to turn rice and eggs into dinner." "That's most leadership I trust," she said. A knock, one quick, two soft. Ailey slipped in. "Grid's back. We're live in 12. Weather's cutting satellite windows, so we bumped your slot to 5 minutes from now." She lowered her voice. "Also, someone emailed the studio a concern about Mia's presence tonight. We flagged the safety plan and the end time. Legal's ready if we see press fishing." Jack closed his eyes, then opened them. "We stay inside the plan," he said. "We sing. We go home by 8. Vivian nodded. "And after the broadcast, if a man named Ralph, or anyone like him, tries to corner you, you walk toward a camera and me. Predators hate light." Jack stood. The room steadied around the simple act of rising. He slipped the pick into his pocket and tapped the letters like a code. For Mia meant boundaries as much as ballads. At the door, Vivian touched his sleeve, a brief human anchor. "Your song kept me here to do this work," she said quietly. "Whatever happens next, we'll make sure she gets to grow up with her father, and you get to keep your songs." He swallowed the lump and nodded. "Then let's make good trouble." They stepped into the corridor's glow, toward cues and cameras. In the far reflection of a darkened window, Jack thought he saw a slick silhouette, pause at the corner, phone lifted just so. Whether it was Ralph or a shadow with the same handwriting, he couldn't tell. A stage manager jogged backward, headset askew. 30 seconds, Jack. Breathe in the downbeat." He did. He breathed in Mia's laugh, the tunnel's hum, the April night that had reached across years and caught a stranger by the sleeve. He breathed out a promise that would be louder than any contract. "Lights in 5, 4. The red tally winked awake, and the world leaned closer. "Live in 90, 89. The red tally above camera 2 blinked while a stagehand smoothed the mic cable along Jack's back like a runway stripe. Through the glass, the anchor smiled with the practiced warmth of a winter fireplace. A door hissed. 2 people in suits glided in with the kind of calm that means bad news. The taller one, studio legal, lifted a folder. "Mr. Carter, Ms. Cole, we've received a demand letter from Dent Artist Management claiming exclusive booking rights for tonight's performance. They're threatening an injunction and damages if we air without his consent." Jack's mouth dried. "I never signed with him." "We believe you," the lawyer said, "but their email also attached a package." She hesitated. "Clips of your daughter at events, one edited to imply late hours, hashtags about safety, with a CPS link." Vivian's gaze went stainless. "Our team will answer this. What does your risk department need?" "Time," the lawyer said, "which we don't have. We can't put Mia on camera, and given the threat, we're pulling your live slot until it's cleared." A stage manager flinched. 30 seconds to tease," someone echoed in his headset. Ralph appeared as if conjured by the word problem. Smile polished, leather folio tucked like a weapon. "Hate to see chaos," he purred. "Sign a limited engagement, 1 night only. I retract the letter, call off the dogs, and you go on air as planned. Simple." Jack stared. The room felt 10 degrees colder. "You sent the letter." "I protected your brand," Ralph corrected, eyes sliding to the glass where a camera operator kept pretending not to listen. "Internet storms drown good men. I build boats. Tiny signature. Here. Exclusivity, just for the current media cycle." Vivian stepped between them. "Extortion masks poorly as management." Ralph's smile didn't reach his eyes. He raised his phone, thumb hovering. On the screen, a grid of clips. Mia yawning at the gala. Mia asleep on Jack's shoulder on a train weeks ago. A freeze frame of the CPS workers at Jack's door pulled from a neighbor's peephole cam. Over it, a caption mocked concern. "Is this okay?" The progress bar ticked to scheduled post 7:02 p.m. "Sign," he said softly, "and this stays a draft." Jack felt the carved pick in his pocket like a hot coin. For a moment he saw two futures, one where he bowed to a man who turned fear into currency, and one where his daughter learned what it looks like when a promise costs you something. He breathed. "My daughter is not leverage. My songs are not collateral. We won't buy our way past a lie." Ralph's eyes cooled. "Then you don't play." The stage manager reappeared, apology crumpling her lips. "I'm so sorry. Legal pulled the segment. We can roll a taped piece later, but—" Vivian's voice cut clean. "We're not asking your cameras for permission to tell the truth." She turned to Jack. "The lobby is public-facing and the building manager is on our board. No broadcast, no contracts. We'll sing for the people who came out in a storm for families." Ailey was already moving, texting, her thumbs a blur. "Pivot to lobby. Invite the room." She flashed Jack a look that felt like a hand on his shoulder. "Omar's 2 blocks away. He can bring the horn." Ralph leaned close enough that Jack could count pores. "Last chance," he murmured. "You think charity people will risk their brands for a busker with a CPS file?" Jack thought of the safety plan on the fridge and the way Mia's palm fit his. He thought of April drizzle and a stranger who chose the stairs instead of the window because a song kept time with her heartbeat. He took Mia's drawing from his guitar case, the stick figure stage, the front row child, and slid it into his jacket pocket like armor. Then he looked Ralph in the eye. "We'll risk our own names," he said. "That's enough." Vivian's counsel arrived, breathless. "We've drafted a response and preservation notice," she told the studio lawyer. "Dent's letter is baseless. We'll file if he publishes defamation." Ralph's thumb hovered, then retreated an inch. Not fear, calculation. "Tick-tock," he said, and vanished into the hallway, already dialing. "Jack?" Vivian's tone softened. "Lobby. Now." They moved, through cables and cue sheets, past a makeup mirror littered with powder like fresh snow, down a corridor where interns whispered and pretended this wasn't the most interesting thing to happen all season. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. On the main floor, donors milled under the 4 families on the edge banner, coats steaming gently as they thawed. A security guard eyed the guitar case, then tipped his head toward a wide space by the piano. "If they close the stage," he said, "make one." Jack set the case down. People turned. Conversations thinned. Somewhere outside, a siren sang into the snow and faded. He reached into his pocket and felt the pick's teeth bite his skin. "Daddy?" a small voice whispered, joining his shadow. He looked at Mia, then at the sea of faces, and lifted the guitar. "Let's build it," he said. Word traveled faster than the elevators. By the time Jack set his case on the marble, conversations had thinned to a hush threaded with curiosity. The banner above, for families on the edge, rippled each time the doors breathed in snow and out steam. A guard cut the lobby music so the room could hear its own pulse. Jack glanced at Mia. She nodded solemnly and pressed the wooden pick into his palm like a ceremony. He lifted the guitar. No lights, no anchors, no permission slips. Just breath, strings, and a promise carved into wood. He started soft, the melody that had followed him through tunnels and hospital corridors. Hold the light even when your arms shake. The first notes swam up into chandeliers, found the balcony, and came back warmer. People drifted closer. Donors in velvet, volunteers with paint on their sleeves, a janitor with a rolling cart who stopped, then began tapping a brush handle on a dustpan in time. Rhythm. Omar shouldered through the doors like weather, sax case over his back. He didn't ask. He just lifted the horn and laid a ribbon of blue across Jack's chords. A receptionist added harmony under her breath, then a full step louder. A kid in a puffer jacket clapped on 2 and 4, determined, contagious. The lobby became a body learning to breathe together. Phones rose. Yes. but not like vultures now, like lanterns, faces tilted open. Someone at the pledge table whispered, "If the stage is closed, we can still give," and the QR code lit up with new pings. Vivian stood in the rear, not directing, just present, eyes bright in a way that made the banner truer. Jack's voice roughened, then steadied. He sang the verse that scared him most, the one about nights when you count coins and promises and come up short on both. He felt Mia's hand at his calf, grounding him, small fingers tapping the beat his heart forgot. He angled the guitar so she could see his hands. This is how we make enough out of not enough. On the last chorus, Omar dropped to a whisper so the room could carry it. The janitor's brush kept time. The receptionist found a high note that trembled and then held. People who had never sung where other people could hear them let their throats risk it. The line circled the marble and came back new. Hold the light. We'll help when your arms shake. Applause didn't so much break as lift. It pushed the snow back from the glass for a second. Jack looked up through it and caught a shape at the mezzanine. Ralph, phone lowered, mouth a tight line that read the room, and didn't like what it said. Predators hate choirs. "Encore!" someone called, breathless. Jack shook his head gently. Security checked his watch. "It's 7:35. Let's get a kid home by 8. The room smiled and leaned in. "We keep a promise to a clock," Jack said into the lobby, patting the pocket where the CPS plan lived. "One more minute, then we get a kid home for bedtime." He played a coda, 30 honest seconds, a lullaby stitched to the anthem like a seam, and let the final chord ring until it found the rafters and came back wearing courage. The guard, who'd seen everything, pressed 2 fingers to his brow like a salute. Mia reached up. Jack opened his hand. Together they slid the pick into the case. Not as an end, as a marker. We built a stage here because we needed one. The room held them in the small quiet after a good song, the kind that feels like decision, not accident. Then Vivian's counsel stepped forward with a folded paper and a look that meant daylight is ready. Truth had its soundtrack. Now it wanted a microphone. Vivian's counsel unfolded the paper like a flare. "Quick announcement," she said into the lobby mic. "Some of you saw rumors. A management firm threatened to block tonight and pushed edited clips of a child to question her father's care. We were pre-briefed for bad actors. This is the verified timeline we can share now. The full forensic report publishes in the morning." A screen near the pledge table flickered to a simple slide. Timeline. Timestamps stacked like train stops. Ralph's demand email. The concern post scheduled for 7:02. The burner account opened from email headers that trace to a Dent management domain. Full report pending. A second slide. A clause from Ralph's contract. Exclusive engagement. Artists shall not perform without manager's consent. Highlighted in red. Gasps traveled in soft waves. Ralph appeared at the mezzanine rail, jaw tight. "You can't prove intent," he called down, smile strained. "I didn't post anything." "We don't need intent to refuse extortion," counsel replied, calm as snowfall. "But since you're here, Studio Legal witnessed the scheduled post, and we've filed notices with platforms." Also, she held up another sheet. A statement from Child Protective Services. The visit earlier this week found adequate food, housing, school attendance, and a documented safety plan. No removal, no restrictions beyond bedtime, and tonight's event complies. Using CPS to scare a parent is not brand safety. It's cruelty. A murmur rose, different now, protective, like the room had suddenly remembered its purpose. Vivian stepped forward, voice low but carrying. "We will not let safety become a weapon against families living on the edge. If you have concerns about a child, you act with care and truth. You do not schedule smears." Jack took the mic only long enough to say the line he'd been holding since the letter. "My daughter isn't leverage. My songs aren't collateral." He glanced at Mia. She had climbed onto the pledge table beside the green cups and swung her feet, solemn as a judge. Ralph started down the stairs, words loaded. Security shifted. Vivian lifted a hand, not to stop him, but to set terms. "You can make this worse," she said, "or you can make it right." He reached the floor, and for the first time his polish cracked. He looked small under the banner. He looked at Jack, then, because truth demanded it, he bent to Mia's height. "I'm sorry," he said, and the words sounded like they cost him. "I told myself I was protecting talent. I was protecting my percentage. I used fear. That was wrong." He turned his phone so everyone could see the screen. With his thumb, he deleted the scheduled post. Then he opened his email and typed a retraction. "No agreement exists. Prior claims withdrawn. Content regarding the child was inappropriate and has been removed." He sent it to the studio, to counsel, to his own mailing list. "I've stepped back from current clients and pinned this retraction across platforms. I'll accept the consequences," he added, voice rough. "I'll donate my next quarter's commissions to the foundation. I forgot what the work is for." Mia studied him with the serious mercy of 6. "Don't be mean to kids for money," she said. "It makes your face tight." A laugh slipped through the room, relief with edges. Ralph's mouth twitched, something that might one day be a different kind of smile, and he stepped back, hands up. The studio lawyer approached the mic. "For the record, our standards flagged Dent's letter as baseless. We'll air the lobby performance as part of tonight's broadcast with Mr. Carter's consent." She nodded to Jack. He nodded back, and the room answered with applause that felt less like spectacle and more like a verdict. Vivian's counsel closed the loop. "We're filing a formal complaint about the false report. We invite the public to choose a better way to help, donate, volunteer, amplify resources. Predators thrive in shadows. Thank you for turning on the lights." Jack looked at the banner, then the pick in his palm. The letters pressed truth into skin. For Mia had gotten them here. With Mia would carry them forward. Vivian touched the mic one last time. "We started this evening raising money," she said. "We're ending it raising a standard. Families on the edge deserve both." The lobby breathed out. People moved again, toward the pledge table, toward each other. A janitor wiped a tear with the back of his glove and said to nobody in particular, "That's the first apology I believed in a long time." Jack crouched to Mia. "Home?" he asked. She nodded, then tapped his jacket where the drawing lived. "After we put this somewhere everyone can see." They stepped toward the doors, snow hushing the city beyond, while behind them, the screen switched from timeline to a simple square of text. "A father and a daughter are not content. They are a family." And it felt, finally, like the night had told the truth about them out loud. The snow thinned to confetti by morning. News shows looped 30 seconds of lobby singing, not because it was perfect, but because a room had chosen to be brave together. Donations spiked. The foundation inbox filled with notes that started, "I was going to give up last night." The studio aired the performance at noon, with a lower third that simply read, "A father and a daughter are not content. They are a family." By week's end, the indie label with the honest email sat at Jack's chipped kitchen table. They drank deli coffee and crossed out clauses in red. Masters stayed with Jack. Opt-outs at every milestone. An advance small enough to be real. Vivian's team added an artist grant and childcare credits that came with nothing but a receipt and a smile. Contracts didn't feel like traps. They felt like bridges you could walk back across. The first project wasn't a glossy debut. It was a promise kept, subway sessions, a string of small recordings cut in stations with good echo, proceeds split with a fund for families in crisis. Omar's horn, the receptionist's harmony, the janitor's brush on a dustpan turned into a snare. Truth, stitched to tile. On release day, Jack took Mia back to their favorite platform by choice, not necessity. He set the case out, not for money, but for memories. A note from the bagel shop, a folded program from the broadcast, a printout of the CPS plan with a gold star sticker Mia demanded to add. We did this right. Commuters slowed. Some recognized him, most didn't. It didn't matter. He strummed the lullaby and the anthem as one long, breathing thing. "Daddy?" Mia asked between songs, eyes bright with a dare. "Can I try?" He laughed, then realized she was serious. He knelt, placed the guitar across her knees, and guided her fingers to the strings. The tunnels hummed approval. She plucked one note, tentative, then stronger. It rang like a small bell with very large news. Tomorrow is already learning its lines. Jack took the wooden pick from his pocket. The carving had softened where his thumb had worried it into a talisman. He pressed it into Mia's palm. "For when it's your turn," he said. She closed her fingers, solemn as a vow. "Can I borrow your stage, too?" "It's ours," he said, looking around at tile and track and the ordinary miracle of people moving toward wherever they were needed. "And we share." A train sighed in, doors parting like curtains. The platform filled, emptied, refilled, the city's everlasting ovation. Jack played them in and out, not to survive this time, but to say thank you. Vivian appeared at the stairwell for a minute, hat low, smile quick, then vanished into her day. Ralph passed once, hands in pockets, a nod like a truce. The world didn't turn into a fairy tale. It turned into something truer, a place where a father kept his songs and his daughter, and a stage could be anywhere a promise was honored. As the last chord settled, Mia leaned her head against his arm. "Do you think music really keeps us brave?" Jack looked at the pick in her fist, at the crowd that had become a chorus, at the life they were building one honest decision at a time. "I think it reminds us we already are." The tunnel breathed. The lights flickered. Somewhere above, a banner rippled that didn't need to be read to be believed. Home wasn't a roof. It was a rhythm, and they had found it. "I'm a single dad to 2 little ones, 3 and 5. Your subscription truly helps me keep making stories that hold the light when arms shake. Thank you for being here."